Welcome back to The Growth Show. I'm your host, Whitney, and today we are chatting about a topic that really can completely transform the way you run your business and the way you think about it, how to work smarter and increase your bottom line. Joining me is Donna Dube, a certified director of operations, business growth strategist, and host of the CEO Amplify podcast. Donna works with established online service-based business owners who are ready to make a bigger impact and maximize their profit while escaping the hustle and grind culture. Donna is passionate about helping business owners go from stressed out operators to confident CEOs. With several years of experience in project planning and strategic growth for 6- and 7-figure businesses, she's seen firsthand the incredible momentum that happens when CEOs learn to leverage their time, talent, and tactics. And in today's episode, Donna is just breaking down so many ways that you can be thinking about the work that you're doing in your business, how you can be setting goals, looking at different aspects of your business, and then actually setting up your week, your months, your year to make solid progress towards those goals without also burning out or feeling like you're just always working in your business and scrambling rather than being that CEO that I think all of us aspire to, but sometimes have a hard time figuring out how to do. So let's get into it. It's a great conversation. Welcome, Donna, to the show. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Whitney.
Yeah. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I was sharing with you. So we're talking today about being the CEO in your business and making sure that the work that you're doing in your business is growing the business. And I know I am guilty. I've actually been thinking about this personally myself. So this really does hit home. Just very interested in today's conversation and how you approach this and how you coach other entrepreneurs through this. So let's start with like where people struggle with this. So what are some common challenges that you see business owners face when they get stuck in the day-to-day operations, and how can they overcome some of that?
Yeah, good question. And I want to just start off by saying to your listeners, there's no guilt and there's no shame if you're sitting right now going, yeah, I'm stuck in the day to day, because we all are. And I was too. Right. And I think what happens to us is that we have a passion. We want to start a business and help people with what our craft and our skill is. And so we get started. There's just us. We're just solopreneurs. And so at that time, we're doing everything because we got to figure out what we're going to use for email. We got to figure out what we're going to use for our website, all the things. We start getting clients. We start getting money in the door. Things are moving, but we're still doing everything. And then we might hear, oh, yes, we have to delegate, hire someone just a few hours a week and give them some tasks to do. And so we may hire someone that may or may not work out well, depending on how we set them up for success. And many times, even if we have hired a few contractors, we're still micromanaging. We're still looking at all the things they're doing.
Yep.
Because a piece of us feels like no one can do it as best as we can. Right.
And sometimes it comes from a place of like support. You think you're helping the person.
Yes, exactly. And so I like to tell the entrepreneurs that I work with is that even if you're a solopreneur, even if you have one contractor, 15 employees, doesn't matter. You need to have time in your week, each and every week, where you wear that CEO hat, where you're actually thinking about the strategy, the vision, how you want to move this business forward. What partnerships do you need to set up? What new things might you need to create to help the current people that you have in your business and or to bring in more people? And so without that dedicated time each and every week, it's very easy to slide into doing what needs to be done next, right? It's kind of that growth versus maintenance tasks idea. And so if you think about everything that happens in your business, they can fall under one of those two buckets, either growth or maintenance. And maintenance are things like, well, I want to fix the wording on that landing page. I want to change and tweak my email sequence. I need to get up some social posts, my bookkeeping, my invoicing. All of these things need to happen, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I want you to think critically, do they all have to happen by you? Right? Is there a way that you can delegate to a human if you have team members already? Delegate to an automation, because that's also taking it off your plate. Or, now listen closely, actually stop. Stop the thing because it's not giving you a return on investment. You started it, sounded like a good strategy. Maybe you've tried it for 3-6 months, but when you look at the data, there's not that return on investment. So why keep doing it? Why put in the time, the energy, and attention if it's not giving you that return? So really having that critical time to start thinking that way is so necessary when we're running our own show.
Oh man, you covered so many things that I resonate with so much. I mean, just the last thing you said about letting go some of these things. And I know, especially in this day and age where people share what they're doing on social media, or you're on someone's newsletter and you're on their website and you're seeing all these things that are going on. And so you want to do those things, but it's been really hard for you to get that going. And then feeling like if you let that thing go, I know I've personally felt this sometimes where it's like, if I let that thing go, it's somehow me saying I give up on that, or I'm making a choice from weakness or from just overwhelm as opposed to making something right for my business. So I feel sometimes it can be tough to discern when to let something go and like when not to.
Definitely, definitely. And I think the way to do that is always to look at the objective data, right? So just to give you an example, in my own business, I was never really a fan of social media, but the word out there is that you got to post, you got to put out content, so I was doing it. I wasn't feeling good. I didn't enjoy it. Probably wasn't being as authentic as I should be doing it. And then eventually I said to myself, I don't see a return on investment here. Sure, I'm getting some likes and some followers, but that's not people actually taking action, joining my free thing, coming to my webinar, buying something, right? And so I decided, okay, what would happen if I stop this? Well, that guy kind of got scary, that thought, can I really stop this when my business fall apart? All the thoughts going through your head. But again, if I'm not getting that return on investment, it's not going to make a difference to my bottom line. So I said to myself as an experiment, I'm going to stop for 30 days. I'm going to see at the end of those 30 days how I'm feeling and if there was any effect. Right? And then make a decision for the next 30 days or the next 90 days, whatever, from there. And so sometimes just kind of tricking your brain to say, this is an experiment. I'm going to try it for 30 days and let's see. Helps with that cold turkey of, ooh, if I take this away, is it going to be a disaster?
Yeah, I think that that's so great to say, giving yourself permission that this doesn't mean that you're quitting it forever or getting rid of it forever. It could be that this is just not the right time in your business for that thing as well. And like for myself, I think social media is like a common thread for all entrepreneurs. Either you built your business on it and it works for you and it's great. Maybe you got in early and, whatever happened, great for you. But then so many others are just like, oh, social. Like it's been a topic. We've had many people come on being like, yeah, I don't use social. I don't like social, whatever the case. And I've had that love-hate relationship as well. And I had someone on my team, and this is something that's interesting too, that delegation thing I've realized, because I had someone come in and was doing the social stuff, but then I was having to still review and approve all of the posts. And then we decided we were going to, and then finally I was like, okay, we've done it for a couple months, go and, you have my permission, you're doing a great job, like whatever. But then we were going to adding blog posts every month and doing these things. And then I had this realization that, well, I still need to have some kind of hand in these things, even if it's delegated. And so it was just kind of like this realization of, you can add the things and you can hire the people, but you still have to then manage those people to do those things. So just because you were able to hire someone to do that doesn't still mean that it's a good thing. Going back to the objective, and is this really, moving the bottom line? And then that person decided to go and pivot her business, and that was great for her. And she wasn't going to do socials for us anymore. And then I really had to decide, do we want to bring someone else in, or are we just going to pause? And so we're paused. We have just a static grid and we post. I love still I travel and I put my mainly it's birds and geckos that go on my stories at this point. And so I still, post when it hits me and I enjoy it, and maybe we'll come back to social in the future. So it's kind of like leaving that door open and not feeling like any of these things. It's not the right time right now. And it's okay.
Yeah. Exactly. So. And being okay with that, right? The fact that your business bestie or some guru that you're following is doing it and it's working for them, that's okay. You have to remember you're your own person and what lights you up is different from them. And you also have your own business, right?
Yeah.
And your audience is not the same audience as theirs, right? And so, I think we kind of get ourselves into trouble when we try and say, oh, look what Johnny's doing. I'll just cookie cutter that and do it myself. And we haven't really looked at, is that authentically you? Is that something that you can bring to the table naturally and you enjoy doing it, right? The cookie cutter copying is not how you started your business, and it shouldn't be how you continue to grow it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? And it's just not sustainable. And we'll get into how are you deciding? I think it goes back to like when you are doing those check-ins more regularly, you can stop before it becomes this runaway train where you're like, okay, well, I guess we'll start doing this because everyone else is, or it was an idea I saw and I liked it, so I'm just going to do it. But it's like, nope, you need to pause, reflect, think about everything else you're doing and looking at the data. And I really like that point you made too, because a lot of our listeners are in the health and science space. And I come from science, and just thinking about experimentation and using the results of the experiment to then decide. And I mean, business in general is just a series of many, many small experiments. You starting your business was an experiment. Picking your niche was an experiment.
Yes.
And so it's just, and it is when you use the data versus emotion, it can smooth out the road a little bit, I think.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And even for, if you're going to launch, if that's something you do in your business, try and think of it as an experiment, because then there's no pass fail, right? There's no sense of, well, we didn't do good enough. This is an experiment. Let's see what happens, because in an experiment, you're going to get the outcome, and it may be what you thought and it may not be, but it removes that, that drama that can often happen when we're trying new things and we want things to go a certain way. Right.
Right. Yeah. Instead, and it's hard, easier said than done, but it is something, I think. And the more you have these experiences in your business, like I've launched, I think 7, 8, I don't know. It's a lot of times.
Yeah.
And my launches in the beginning, you did not want to talk to me. My poor husband, so patient. I was an emotional wreck. And then as time went on, then it was like, okay, but there's also the financial impact. There's the feeling that, where is my business going to go? If this launch is an indicator of future launches and all of that. But yeah, going back to that data-based decision-making is so helpful.
Yeah. One way I like to help entrepreneurs do this sort of in a structured way is what I call a CEO Power Hour. So this is 1 hour a week that you dedicate to having your CEO hat on and really thinking about these things critically. And so it doesn't matter what day of the week you do it, doesn't matter the time. What's more important is that whatever time you pick, it's the same each and every week, because we're trying to build a habit, right? And so you pick your time, whether Monday morning or Friday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, whatever works for you, but clear that 1 hour and make that 1 hour non-negotiable. Meaning that nothing else gets in the way of that 1 hour, unless it's, a life crisis. That's a different story. But, that 1 hour is very important. And then what you do during that 1 hour is 3 things. Review. So you want to review some of your data. You don't have to look at everything. We don't have to look at 50 data points. But what are 3 and 4 points that really matter right now to where you are in your business? We're going to reflect. How was the week? How is the week coming up? Maybe I'm traveling, and so I need some extra help at home because I'm not going to be available, right? Or I need to clear my schedule a little bit because I have these extra things that came that I, didn't anticipate. So looking at, where we are now, where we need to go, and then really prioritizing. And I say 3, not 5, not 10, 3 priorities for the week that will help you reach your goals, get you one step closer to that goal, whatever that is for you. And so that sort of helps elevate and make sure that you're doing some of those CEO level tasks when you set those 3 priorities. Then you actually go to your calendar and put them in. Block off time for those 3 priorities. Because if you're anything like me, if it's not in the calendar, it sits up here, but nothing gets done with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yes. I love that last part because I do my weekly goals at the beginning of the week. I write them down, but then I think sometimes that's the last time that I think or look at them. I kind of think I set the intention in my head, but it's literally in one ear out the other kind of vibes. Yes. So that additional step of then kind of aligning okay, well, the priorities for the week, when are they actually going to get done? Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it's a lot of the busy work.
Yeah.
And I feel too that probably spending this time doing this can also increase your levels of satisfaction in your business, because now you're looking at that horizon, you're looking at your goals, forward thinking, and not getting pulled down into the minutia. Mm-hmm. Because I know if I do that for a couple weeks on end, I start just being what am I doing all of this for? Right. Where is this going?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just
and you end up being an employee of your business, right? Rather than owner and operator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just so easy to get into those kind of ruts, I guess.
Yes.
So let's talk then about how can entrepreneurs distinguish between the tasks that contribute to business growth and those that simply just kind of maintain the status quo, like you were saying, those 2 different ones.
Yeah.
How can they kind of prioritize
So I like to really simplify it into that growth and maintenance buckets. And as CEO, you want to be spending most of your time in the growth mode, right? Not in the maintenance mode. Now, you may be starting where you're doing everything right now, and that's fair. And so this is a journey and a goal you want to get to. But if we think about really big businesses where we have the CEO, we have board of directors, we have VPs, that CEO is spending all of his or her time in growth mode. Now, certainly they have much bigger teams and many more employees to help support them, right? But we want to have that same thinking as we're going into our weeks and our days. And so really looking at what are the growth tasks that are going to help move the needle forward for my business. So those partnerships, networking, sales, if you're doing that, sales calls in your business, sales one-to-many and one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Those types of things where you can't delegate that, you can't automate that to someone else. And that's where you're going to really see that return on investment. And so I like to gamify it a little bit by using something called the CEO score. Okay. And so what we do is we take the amount of revenue that we'd like to make in the year, and we divide it by the number of weeks we want to work that year. And so we'll come up with a number. Let's say it's 2,000. That's not the amount of money you're getting paid, nor, what you expect to get. It's just a value of your time and your energy. Okay. And then different maintenance tasks and different growth tasks will assign a value to. And so those things that are growth are going to get a higher value, a 1,000 or a 10,000 value. The maintenance tasks, a $10 or $100 value.
Oh, okay.
And so what you want to try and do is each and every week, try and have enough activities so you can reach your CEO score, right? So if it was 2,000, you might need an hour of $1,000 activities. Or maybe you went to a conference and you did some networking, and so you got one of the $10,000 activities that week, right? Depends on the week. It's not going to be exactly the same week to week, but this just kind of sets us up for, this is the goal I'd like to reach. What kind of activities do I need to do this week to be able to get there?
I love that so much. I've never, I devoured business leadership books when I was starting out. And I love that perspective, because I think it can be kind of this weird catch-22 for business owners too, where we started a business because, it's like the E-Myth. I'm sure you've read the E-Myth Revisited, and being the pie maker versus the pie shop owner. Yes. And you started the pie shop because you just loved baking pies. You didn't love it because you loved running a pie shop and marketing and selling and dealing with vendors and all of that. So naturally, even though we're getting burnt out in our business because we're doing all the things and maybe regretting or just feeling some kind of way about all the things we're doing, at the same time, sometimes we avoid those higher level tasks, like the
Yes.
sales. Like I've heard so many people say, I don't like sales. You know, I don't like marketing. I'm not good at it. And so, because the reason that we started our business is because we were good at whatever our subject expertise was,
Yes.
not the aspects of running a business. And so I feel like by you scoring it and assigning values and kind of rewarding yourself for this dollar value, it's like, hey, I'm a bit of an introvert. And so like I did this networking, I got a $10,000, thing because I did this thing that I don't really love a whole lot, but I know it's really good.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it just kind of, gives you something to look forward to during the week and allows you to then set your week up for success, right? Allows you to be what I like to call proactive rather than reactive. Right?
Yeah.
So just like a day-to-day example of this is, how do you start your day? When you turn on your laptop in the morning, do you know what priorities you want to cover that day? And do you start with those? Or, like most of us do you open up your email? Oh, there's like 50 emails in there, and you start going through them and might read one and then you leave it there and go to another one, and then ding, ding, your phone's dinging. So you start looking there. Somebody on your team wants something. And next thing you know, it's 2-3 o'clock. And those priorities that you had for the day, they're long gone because you were being reactive to everyone else's demands. Right?
Yep.
That doesn't mean ignore your inbox and ignore your team. No, that's not what I'm saying. But dedicate a time to that. So maybe you have a 1 hour or an hour and a half in the morning when you first start, and that's your growth time. That's your time to work on those tasks that are really priority for you, right? That's how I like to do it. First thing, get that done. My team knows, okay, she's available after that. We can send a message, but we'll get her after that hour, right?
Yeah.
And whatever time works best for you. We're different people. Sometimes afternoon or evening is better for people than first thing in the morning. So you really have to know yourself, but really setting that week up so that you have success and you're not saying at the end of the week, oh, I'm exhausted, but I don't really think I did much.
Yeah. Right. And it's just feeling like your inbox ruled the day. And I mean, I'll be honest, like I can respond to emails when my energy is lower at the end of the day. I don't need my like fresh morning energy, lots of brain energy here, like stored up good energy to respond to emails. I need that for the deeper work that I need to be doing. And so that's how I personally operate. But yeah, I think everyone needs to kind of, maybe you don't have that afternoon slump, and maybe it's like the afternoon after lunch is when you really start going. And then that's your time to do that tougher stuff. Yeah. And so in terms of like delegating or like picking these specific tasks, I mean, the growth versus maintenance. So would you say the maintenance generally is the bucket where you might want to start thinking about delegating or automating first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most definitely. And so out of those maintenance tasks, we've kind of got two other buckets. So delegate either to a human or to an automation, or the other piece of that is, do I need to keep doing it? Right? Can I put it on pause or stop it completely? And so what you want to be able to do is each of those tasks is going to be part of a bigger process. So I'll just take this podcast recording as an example. There are certain pieces that Whitney needs to do to make this podcast successful, right? She needs to be prepared before the show. She needs to show up live, ask the questions, engage in the conversation, etc. She doesn't need to do the editing. She doesn't need to make the clips for social or whatever assets are going to be made afterwards. She doesn't need to upload to the host. Right? And so looking at your systems and your processes that you have in your business and saying, what pieces do I as business owner have to do? And what pieces can I either automate or assign to a team member so that I can, relieve some pressure on myself on those. And I know, okay, it's Tuesday, I have to show up for the podcast recording, right? Do my prep beforehand, whatever that looks like. And so for most of us, most of our processes, we can remove ourselves from certain pieces of it. And you might think, oh, but that's only an hour here. It just takes me a few minutes. But people, those minutes add up. Right? How many of us have said, oh, I'll just go in Canva and adjust that image. And then next thing you know, we're still in there an hour later doing whatever, playing, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're the creative type and you enjoy that type of thing, then it's hard to just go in, do, and get out.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the guilt sets in.
Yes, exactly.
Then it's a double whammy.
Right. I remember working with a client once, and this was an issue. She was spending a lot of time in Canva, playing and creating images and stuff. And she had a virtual assistant who was well equipped to do those things for her, and certainly was paying that person at a lower rate than her own rate, right? But I like it. Okay, I understand that. But let's look at how much time in the week you're spending on that. So she took a week and actually documented how much time she was spending. And then I said, now multiply that by your hourly rate. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Right? Because again, when we look at that objective number, that cost me, X $100, and I lost the time to do other CEO level work, and I could have paid my assistant a lower amount, and she could have happily done it without me needing to be involved, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just realizing, and I know doing a time audit is not everyone's favorite thing to do, but I do strongly encourage it because we get so much data out of there that we can then go ahead and use, right? What things can I start to delegate or automate? What things do I really want to get off my plate? Because one, I don't enjoy them, or two, they're taking my time.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Well, it's very similar to like a dietitian who is helping someone for the first time and being like, can you just do a food recall for like a couple days so that we can kind of know what's going on here and identify some things?
Yes.
It's like, we need the data, but you don't have to do it forever.
Yes, exactly. Like 3-5 days is great, right? Mm-hmm. So we get a sense, and we also get a sense of distractions, right? Yeah. Am I wasting my time sometimes, on something that I don't even really need to be doing? And maybe I need to remove that from my phone completely so that it's not distracting me, right? Your family is not a distraction. Getting up to go for a walk is not a distraction, but we all have them.
Yes. Yeah. Right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it adds up over the course of the day, and you feel like at the end of the day, you didn't get anything done. It's like, well, you ended up actually only working about 5 hours, and, it feels like you worked longer, but there were lots of little things here and there.
Yes.
Yeah. And so in terms of like aligning our tasks to the goals and those growth tasks specifically, do you have any recommendations for how to even set some of those goals, or like how frequently, sometimes it's a busy end of the year to set the goals, and maybe, it's still time to be kind of thinking about that. Like, any tips and advice for folks to kind of make sure that the foundation of all of this is good?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I have very strong opinions about goal setting.
Oh, okay, perfect. Oh, I love it.
Right. So I think, like many of us, and I myself was in this boat, end of the year or beginning of year, okay, pick a goal. And we automatically think, pick a revenue goal. Okay, so we pick a revenue goal. If you're like me, sometimes we just pick a number that sounds good, right? It's maybe better than we did last year if we looked at last year's numbers. A friend of mine has got that goal, so I'll choose that goal too. None of that is strategic, right? And so, yes, we want to pick a revenue goal, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Because really the revenue goal, that's the end. That's the end result, right? We need all the steps we're going to do to get to that revenue goal. And so I like to take it further and pick action-oriented goals. How are we going to reach that revenue goal, right? So we may break down, okay, here's my services and my products. This is what I'm going to sell to these many people at this price point. So now we have a clear picture of, what we're going to or hope to sell to our audience in the next year. And then from there, we want to pick 12-month goals. I say no more than 5.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that we're focusing on the 3 main systems in our business: marketing, sales, and client delivery. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is build a rinse and repeat system for each of those within our business. One strategy for marketing. How are we attracting new people? One strategy. How are we nurturing those people once they do get into our world? One strategy, right? How are we inviting them to work with us? one strategy. And then how are we delivering on the promises that we made on our sales page, emails, etc.? One strategy. And the reason why we want one strategy to start with is because we want to build that so it's rinse and repeat. So we make those assets. Like we were talking about launching earlier, right? You can have emails, you can have social posts, you can have lives, whatever you do, you can reuse that material the next time you launch. We don't have to start from scratch.
Right.
Sure, we might want to tweak and adjust and change, right? Again, looking at the data, but we don't have to start over. So the second time you go to launch that offer, service, or program, it's significantly easier because you have some of those assets, right? Setting up a system for your podcasting, or if you're doing podcast guesting, setting up a system for that so that during the year, that's running rinse and repeat behind the scenes.
I love that.
The other goals that we usually as entrepreneurs like to focus on are those project goals. Well, I want to redesign my website. I want to write a book. I want to do a TED Talk. Right? I want to create a new offer. And while those are fun and exciting for us as entrepreneurs, if we don't have that foundation where we have our marketing system, our sales system, and our client delivery system running, we end up in this boat where we're focusing on the project. I'm going to, redo my website, but our revenue is going up and down like a roller coaster, right? We get in those feast or famine months because we get clients in the door. We're busy working with them. We drop the ball on marketing, right? Oh, now I need more revenue. Okay. We start marketing again. We may drop the ball on our client delivery. And so we want to make sure that foundation is there. Each and every month, we've got something rolling behind the scenes before we start looking at those project goals.
And it's possible that some of those projects are in support of creating those systems. Like I talk to folks a lot about how does your website become this sales and marketing system that keeps bringing people in and all of that. And so if you're feeling like, I've never set up a proper scheduler and, I'm having a hard time of having an audience because I'm relying on referrals only. And it's only when I give a talk or do I reach out to people, do I get leads? But otherwise, like you mentioned, you take your eye off the ball for a second and then suddenly nothing's happening. It could be looking at, is it a website that is set up with the right systems? Is it going and doing more networking? But then where are you sending people to? And what kind of system do you have behind the scenes supporting that? But I like that idea of like, you can have an idea for a project, but you need to make sure that it's aligned with some kind of strategy or goal related to your broader goals. And I really also like that you mentioned getting these systems in place and then getting it like a well-oiled machine, and then you can move on. Because it's not to say that you have to spend an entire year working on just one thing, getting a nurturing email system up and going. But you need to get it on rinse and repeat so that you can either automate it or delegate it to someone else. And then once it's like set, then you can move on. And then it's great.
100% agree. Yes. And that's why it's sort of one strategy at a time to begin with, right? Set it up. Let's make sure it's working. Once it's working and it's automated or delegated, now we can look at the second strategy. But we tend to think, oh, I need to attract more people. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, right? And we overwhelm ourselves by so many strategies at once. And we don't take that time to actually look at it. So once we've got those 12-month goals, then we want to break that down even further. So what are our 90-day goals? And then what are our monthly goals? And really, this is just simple math, right? So as an example, I like to do guest podcasting. So I may have a goal that I'd like to, speak on 20 podcasts in the year. And so I know if I want to get on 20, I probably have to pitch 50 or so to get there, right? Maybe even more. And so I want to then make sure each and every month I'm pitching the number I need to so that at the end of the year, I've reached my goal of 20, right? So it's really just breaking down that number to say, what do I have to do this month?
Yeah. And going back to even the experimentation thing that you mentioned too, in order for us to know how much we need to do or how something's going to work, we do need to do it a couple times and not change too much because we know more variables in the experiment, the crazier the results. You can never interpret what worked and what didn't. Yes. So you may need to stick with some of these things like the podcast pitching, and say after 2 months, you've gotten no people. Okay, then maybe I need to change my strategy somehow. Maybe I just need to increase the number of people I'm pitching to, or how I'm pitching, or something like that. But I think that can be, I've been in that boat too, where I try something, I want the quick results, I want it to happen right away. Mm-hmm. It can be really disheartening for things that you try in your business to not work right away. Like it's just tough. I always say it's an emotional roller coaster running a business.
Yes.
But you have to stick with it for a little bit to see what's going to work or not, so that you can then set those numerical goals, because in the beginning you're just guessing. But I will say that probably most of us are very optimistic about, like, I thought when I launched my course 2 years ago that it was just going to be after like 2 launches, set it and forget it. Like, okay, we're just going to run the launch every, 3 months. We're going to get the sales coming in. And then there's all these other ideas that I want to do. And I'm going to, guess what, 3 years later, still perfecting how to sell and launching. And I've now come to accept that it will never end. Like that I'm in it and will continue. Yeah. But it's just something to keep in mind too, that you do need to stick with it to get that data in order to know like what those numerical goals should be, whether it is discovery calls that you want to get every month, email subscribers that you want to grow, so that you can kind of look at, well, how many email subscribers convert into clients every month? You could start looking at some of those things to just start getting ideas to be like, okay, well, if I am banking on, 2 or 3 people from my email list booking discovery calls every month, how many, if I want to have 1 to 2 if I want to have 3 discovery calls every month, how many email subscribers do I really need to be bringing in or having come in every month, so that I can see those numbers? Because, things just don't happen magically, unfortunately. No. I can want
and I think, that's unfortunate that I think we've been, inundated with education that, just build it and they'll come, right? Passive income. Well, I'm all for making it as passive as we can, but I don't believe in fully passive, right?
No.
You still have to be getting in front of new people's audience. You still have to be looking at those numbers. Even now, I've set up an email sort of evergreen funnel for one of my products. And so now I'm going through and looking at the data and saying, okay, how are my open rates? How are my click rates? Okay, my open rates aren't bad. Ooh, this one was low. What can I do with my subject line to, tweak and change? What about my click rates? Okay, maybe I'll add a button or add an image and so, yes, it's constant, playing, if you will, with it to, to try and up the numbers and get it where you want it to be. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And the market is always changing, even if someone says, well, I made 200K off my course, last year, and it's great. It's like, well, that was great that year, but the market is always changing. There's new things happening, the economy, so it just that idea that, you can set it and forget it. There's plenty of people who, when Google changes their algorithm, their traffic goes down and suddenly their ad revenue goes down.
Right.
Because I know like passive blogging was a big thing. It's still a big thing, but I think a couple years ago it was like, wow, you can really generate a lot of income off of this. But even those folks, yes, some of it's passive, but you still do need to spend time. And they also spent a lot of time up front figuring it out and testing and having that patience. I think especially for passive products, you need a lot of patience and faith.
Yes.
to keep going, because it can be tough. But
yeah. And I think the other piece of this too is just really listening to those people who do become clients. Right? What questions are they asking? What things are they looking for? Because lots of times we have a great idea. Oh, I'll just make this and I'll put this, and this in it, and that'll just help my people do, whatever. And that might be good, but they might be in a little bit of a different spot than we thought they were when they started. Right? And so just really keeping those ears open to say, how can I serve them even better? Right? What things can I deliver to, help them get to the next level?
And I think that goes back to the point you were making about these 3 buckets of, yes, you want to be focusing on your marketing and on your sales, but you need to focus on the client delivery too. And if you go too far into, well, I'm going to launch these 5 strategies this year and they all happen to be in the marketing bucket, then you might start seeing some things slip on the client delivery side. And I know everyone listening, you started your business to help your clients. So no one would ever want to give a bad client experience, but it can just happen if we have that imbalance. And I find myself too, sometimes you can't be everywhere at once in your business. And so I do sometimes have to say, okay, I'm going to focus on this a little bit more or this a little bit more. So it doesn't mean that you're moving everything forward probably all at once.
Nope.
That's why you're saying like set the year goal and then the quarterly, maybe this quarter you're focusing more on this or this month more on this.
Exactly.
But having it all in the mix so that you can feel like you're not dropping the ball in any one area of your business, but also just saying like, I can't do it all at once. So how can I make this work?
Yes. And I think sometimes it's a trap we fall into, when we're either listening to podcasts or following certain businesses that are bigger than us and we aspire to get to where they are. We also have to remember that they have a team bigger than us too.
Yes.
Right? And they didn't start where we're seeing them now. They started where we are now. And so, each little step gets us closer. I always tell my clients, one step forward, be 1% better today than you were yesterday. That adds up, right?
Yeah. And it's those little decisions that you make every day about what you're going to work on and how you're going to kind of keep that energy to keep going too. Because I think that's the other thing is that these big names, I definitely have a few people that I always wish I shouldn't compare myself to them, but I'm definitely looking at them and being like, I want to be as big as her or whatever. And, it's like one of the things she didn't do was quit. And so, I think it's protecting that energy too and making sure that we don't burn out because it's a long game and keeping that in mind. So how can, to kind of wrap this up, like how can folks create this game plan, this personalized game plan to balance, the personal life, because that's also a thing, and the demands of business so that they can really keep that momentum going?
Yeah. I think one thing that I've found to be very helpful is setting up what I call a scheduling ninja, which is really just making an ideal calendar for yourself for the week, right? So start with a blank calendar, it can be Google, can be paper, whatever you use. And what I like to do is put in the things that are important to me in terms of my life first, because I want to run a life first business. I don't want to try and squeeze my life in around the cracks. And so those things are important to me. I like to have a morning time. So I block that off in my calendar, right? If you pick kids up from school, block that off. If you like to have a date night every Thursday, block that off. So whatever is most important to you in your life, you want a massage once a month, like whatever that is, make sure you're blocking that time off. So that's there first. And then next step is to say, okay, when are my, in air quotes here, my open hours? And for those of us running an online business, you may think, well, I don't have open and close. I'm not a store, right? But I do think it's important for our own sanity and for our team sanity and for our clients that we have certain hours when we're available. So that may be a typical 9 to 3 or 9 to 4 for you, and it might not be, right? Maybe it's a few hours in the morning and then you take a break and a few hours in the afternoon, or you work with clients globally. So you do some hours in the evening, but you don't work in the morning, whatever that is, again, it's tailored to you and your current stage of life. So blocking off those hours, and then within those hours, now what are my priorities? What do I have to do for marketing? Where am I putting that in? What do I have to do for sales? Make sure I have that. And my client delivery, make sure I have that.
And
then taking a look and saying, and your power hour, exactly. And then looking at it and saying, do I have white space? Because we need white space, right? Things don't always go as planned. And, too much Zoom is a bad thing, right? So we can only handle so many meetings at a time. And so giving us that buffer, if you need that buffer, plan it in, but making sure you have some white space in your calendar so that, you can take that break. You can walk away when you need to. You can go help your kid at school if that's something that you want to be able to do, right? Travel if that's a piece of your lifestyle. So really just looking at what's most important to me and let me set my week up for success. and then sharing that with the people most important to you. So sharing that with your family, sharing that with your team, and making sure that your clients are aware what the expectations are, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, you can message me after 5 p.m. I will get back to you on my next business day or within 48 hours or whatever that requirement is for you, but making it clear from the get-go so that everyone knows, okay, I can ask Whitney something, but I won't hear back until, Monday because she doesn't work on Fridays.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Clear is kind.
Yes, exactly. So having that ideal schedule really helps us set our week up for success and also allows us to tweak it and change it as our seasons of life change, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When I started my business, my kids were much younger. They're now, teenagers and young adults. So the requirements from me are very different, right? Yeah. 10 p.m. meeting. That's what they want, right?
Yeah.
But that quiet time in the morning, I can have it.
Yeah.
Right. So it really depends on where you're at. Maybe you've got, parents who living with you and you need to do some care there because they're getting older, whatever that is. But build that into your week so that you're not saying at the end of the week, oh, I never have time to do. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, such great advice. Great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, okay. You have been a wealth of information, but I know you have so much more to offer. So where can people go to learn more from you and get your support?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So if they go to my website, ceoamplify.ca, they'll find a download there, which goes along with the Power Hour that we talked about. So it's just a PDF download, walk you through how do I set this up and what do I do during this hour. So that'll really help you get that process started in your business. If you're listening and you think, yeah, I think I need that, to have that dedicated CEO time. Right. And if you like what I was talking about today and that really resonated with you and you'd like to dig in some more, I do have a membership where we help entrepreneurs reach their income goal by working 25 hours a week or less. And so we really do focus on some of these CEO habits that we talked about today, as well as that strategic planning so that we really do know with clarity what's the plan going forward. Yeah, so you can find that at the Profitable Small Business Club.
Wonderful. Well, Donna, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. It was such a great conversation, and I hope people will check out the free download. I want to grab it and check out your membership as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Growth Show. I hope you're walking away with some new insights and strategies, I know I am, to take your business to the next level. Donna has shared some incredible tools to help you work smarter, not harder, and start stepping into your role as the confident CEO your business needs. And hopefully you also got a lot of inspiration and validation that wherever you are right now in your business is the right place to be, and just taking those steps forward to add new things, introduce new products or services or ideas or anything you have, but doing it in a way that is strategic and also not burning you out at the same time. So I really valued all of Donna's insights. And don't forget to download Donna's free guide, the CEO Power Hour Guide, for practical steps to carve out time for those high-level strategy and decision-making tasks for that 1 hour power hour that you would have every week that we talked about in today's episode. And if you're ready to dive even deeper, check out her Profitable Small Business Club. You can look in the show notes for more info and the link to that as well. And you can also connect with Donna for more tips and insights on Instagram at CEO Amplify. And remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow entrepreneurs, anyone who is looking for this kind of information and wanting to grow into that CEO role. This is the episode for them. So thank you so much for listening. Talk soon.